20 Hollywood celebrities who surprisingly had affairs with their co-stars. In the dazzling world of Hollywood, where fantasy and reality often blur, on-screen chemistry sometimes ignites into off-screen passion. Today, we're exploring 20 of the most shocking affairs between co-stars that took Hollywood and the world by surprise. These aren't just tabloid rumors or PR stunts. These are documented relationships that developed while cameras were rolling, often with complicated and sometimes heartbreaking consequences. Join us as we pull back the curtain on 20 of Hollywood's most unexpected on-set romances, stories that remind us that even the most carefully managed celebrity images can't always contain the messy realities of human desire and connection. 1. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. When Humphrey Bogart met Lauren Bacall on the set of To Have and Have Not in 1944, their 25-year age difference wasn't the only obstacle to romance. Bogart was also married to his third wife, actress Mayo Methot. The 44-year-old Bogart and 19-year-old Bacall nevertheless developed an immediate and intense connection that would become one of Hollywood's most legendary love stories. Director Howard Hawks, who had discovered Bacall and reportedly harbored his own feelings for the young actress, noticed the chemistry developing between his stars and attempted to intervene. According to Hollywood lore, Hawks warned Bacall that Bogart would never leave his wife for her, and even threatened to derail her promising career by sending her to the poorest studio in Hollywood. His efforts proved futile against the genuine connection forming between the actors. Bogart's marriage to Methot was already troubled before he met Bacall, characterized by heavy drinking and violent arguments that had earned them the nickname the Battling Bogarts in Hollywood circles. Still, the decision to end his marriage wasn't taken lightly. After filming concluded, Bogart initially returned to Methot, but the separation from Bacall proved unbearable. In February 1945, he left his wife for good and married Bacall 3 months later. 2. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Elizabeth Taylor was already a tabloid fixture for her multiple marriages when she arrived in Rome to film the epic Cleopatra in 1962. At the time, she was married to her fourth husband, singer Eddie Fisher, whom she had famously stolen from her friend Debbie Reynolds in a previous scandal. No one expected that history would repeat itself when she met her co-star Richard Burton, a married Welsh actor known for his Shakespearean prowess and heavy drinking. Their first meeting on set was actually contentious, with Burton dismissing Taylor as an amateur. However, when they filmed their first scene together, something electric happened. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz later recalled, "I didn't have to direct them, I just turned on the camera. The passionate kiss they shared during filming sparked an equally passionate real-life affair that became impossible to conceal from cast, crew, or eventually the press. When news of the affair broke, it caused an unprecedented scandal. The Vatican condemned Taylor for erotic vagrancy, and she was even denounced on the floor of the U.S. Congress. The massive publicity threatened to derail the already troubled production of Cleopatra, which was becoming the most expensive film ever made. Studios executives, rather than trying to suppress the affair as they might have in earlier eras, reluctantly accepted that the scandal might actually help sell tickets to the struggling epic. Both Taylor and Burton divorced their spouses and married each other in 1964, beginning a tempestuous relationship that would hold the public's fascination for years. They starred in 11 films together, divorced in 1974, remarried in 1975, and divorced again the following year. Despite the tumultuous nature of their relationship, their passion for each other never fully disappeared. After Burton's death in 1984, a love letter he had written to Taylor just days before was found among his possessions, a testament to a connection that, though deeply flawed, was undeniably powerful. 3. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. One of Hollywood's most enduring love affairs began on the set of Woman of the Year in 1942, when Katharine Hepburn first met Spencer Tracy. Their initial encounter has become legendary, with Hepburn reportedly saying, "I'm afraid I'm a bit tall for you, Mr. Tracy," to which producer Joseph L. Mankiewicz responded, "Don't worry, Kate, he'll cut you down to size." What makes their affair particularly surprising was its longevity and secrecy. Tracy was a married Catholic who, because of his religious beliefs, would never divorce his wife, Louise Treadwell. Despite being separated from Treadwell, Tracy remained legally married to her until his death, partly out of respect and partly because she had dedicated her life to creating the John Tracy Clinic for Deaf Children, named after their son. Hepburn and Tracy would go on to make 9 films together over 25 years, their on-screen chemistry enhanced by their off-screen relationship. Throughout this time, they maintained separate separate residences and never publicly acknowledged their relationship, though it was an open secret in Hollywood circles. Hepburn, fiercely protective of both their privacy and Tracy's reputation, never pushed for marriage or public recognition. 4. Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossellini. In 1949, Ingrid Bergman was at the height of her Hollywood career. The Swedish actress had won an Academy Award for Gaslight and captivated American audiences in classics like Casablanca and Notorious. Married to neurosurgeon Petter Lindstrom, with whom she had a daughter, Bergman had cultivated an image of dignity and grace that made her one of America's most beloved stars. This carefully crafted image shattered when Bergman began working with Italian neorealist director Roberto Rossellini on the film Stromboli. Though they had never met before, Bergman had initiated their professional relationship with a brief letter. "If you need a Swedish actress who speaks English very well, who has not forgotten her German, who is not very understandable in French, and who in Italian knows only ti amo, I am ready to come and make a film with you." What began as a professional admiration quickly evolved into a passionate affair, despite both being married to others. When Bergman became pregnant with Rossellini's child while still filming Stromboli, the scandal erupted with unprecedented ferocity. Senator Edwin C. Johnson of Colorado even denounced her on the floor of the U.S. Senate as a powerful influence for evil, while gossip columnists who had once championed her turned viciously against her. 5. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. When filming began on the action comedy Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2004, Brad Pitt was half of Hollywood's golden couple with Jennifer Aniston, while Angelina Jolie was known as a wild child, recently divorced from Billy Bob Thornton. Few could have predicted the on-set chemistry that would develop between them, chemistry that would eventually end Pitt's 5-year marriage and create the tabloid sensation dubbed Brangelina. Although both Pitt and Jolie initially denied any impropriety, the timing of events spoke volumes. In January 2005, Pitt and Aniston announced their separation, with Aniston filing for divorce in March. By April, photos emerged of Pitt, Jolie, and her adopted son Maddox on a beach in Kenya, confirming rumors of their relationship months before their film was even released. The affair was particularly surprising given Pitt's public image as one half of America's sweethearts. The narrative that emerged in the press, with Aniston often portrayed as the wronged woman and Jolie as the homewrecker, would shape public perception of all three stars for years to come. Jolie later admitted that she and Pitt fell in love while making the film, though she maintained they didn't act on their feelings while he was still married. What began as a scandalous affair eventually evolved into one of Hollywood's most prominent families. Pitt and Jolie had 3 biological children together and adopted 3 more, becoming advocates for international adoption and humanitarian causes. After years together, they married in 2014, only to separate 2 years later in a divorce that became as contentious and public as the beginning of their relationship had been. 6. Meg Ryan and Russell Crowe. In 2000, Meg Ryan was America's sweetheart, beloved for romantic comedies like When Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle. Married to actor Dennis Quaid for nearly 10 years, Ryan's wholesome image made her one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. That image was shattered when she began an affair with her proof-of-life co-star Russell Crowe during filming in Ecuador. The revelation of the affair came as a shock to Ryan's fans, who had invested in her on-screen persona of the girl next door, and largely negative toward Ryan, casting her as the villain in her marriage, while largely overlooking Quaid's rumored infidelities throughout their relationship. As Ryan later revealed in interviews, her marriage to Quaid had already been troubled for years before she met Crowe. What makes this affair particularly significant and public image? After the scandal, she struggled to maintain her status as a romantic comedy lead, with several subsequent films underperforming at the box office. In a 2019 New York Times Magazine interview, Ryan reflected on this period. "I felt the effect, like I was the bad guy or whatever the story was, but I remember letting go of needing to correct anybody." The relationship with Crowe didn't last, ending shortly after the film's release, but its impact on Ryan's career was long-lasting. While male stars like Crowe could weather infidelity scandals with minimal career impact, Ryan's deviation from her wholesome image resulted in fewer roles and diminished commercial success. Her experience highlighted the double standards often applied to men and women in Hollywood, especially when public personas and private actions seem to contradict each other. 7. Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie. Before Angelina Jolie became half of Brangelina, she was involved in another surprising co-star affair that shocked Hollywood. In 1999, Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton worked together on the forgettable film Pushing Tin. At the time, Thornton was in a serious relationship with actress Laura Dern, while Jolie had recently separated from her first husband, Johnny Lee Miller. What made this affair particularly surprising wasn't just that it happened, but how quickly and dramatically it escalated. While Dern was away working on a film, Thornton and Jolie eloped in Las Vegas in May 2000, blindsiding Dern completely. As Dern later told Talk magazine, "I left our home to work on a movie, and while I was away, my boyfriend got married, and I've never heard from him again." The Thornton-Jolie marriage quickly became one of Hollywood's most eccentric, with the couple famously wearing vials of each other's blood around their necks and making frank public statements about their sexual relationship. Their intense passion seemed to burn through normal social boundaries, creating a spectacle that fascinated and sometimes repulsed the public. Despite the dramatic beginning, the relationship burned out almost as quickly as it had ignited. The couple separated after just 3 years of marriage, with Thornton later suggesting that he felt inadequate in Jolie's world of international humanitarian work and adoption plans. The affair and subsequent marriage represented a phase in Jolie's life that seemed to exemplify her early reputation for unpredictable, boundary-pushing behavior, a reputation she would later transform through her humanitarian work and advocacy. 8. Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher. For decades, fans of Star Wars speculated about the evident chemistry between Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher on screen. What most didn't know until Fisher's 2016 memoir, The Princess Diarist, was that their connection wasn't just good acting. The two had engaged in a 3-month affair during the filming of the original Star Wars in 1976. What made this revelation particularly surprising was how long it remained secret. For 40 years, neither Fisher nor Ford had publicly acknowledged the relationship, despite Fisher's general openness about other aspects of her life. The affair was made more complicated by the fact that Ford was 33 at the time, married with 2 children, while Fisher was just 19 and appearing in her first major film role. In her memoir, Fisher described herself as infatuated with Ford, while characterizing him as quiet and aloof even during their relationship. The affair began after a birthday party for director George Lucas, when Ford offered to drive an intoxicated Fisher home, and ended when filming wrapped. According to Fisher, they never spoke of it afterward during their decades of working together on subsequent Star Wars films. Fisher's revelation came as a surprise not just to fans, but reportedly to Ford himself, who was given advance notice but not approval rights over the content. His characteristically private response to the disclosure, minimal comment beyond acknowledging he was warned, contrasted with Fisher's detailed account, highlighting the different ways the two stars approached their public personas. 9. Eddie Cibrian and LeAnn Rimes. When Eddie Cibrian and LeAnn Rimes were cast as lovers in the 2009 Lifetime movie Northern Lights, both were married to other people, Cibrian to model Brandi Glanville, with whom he had 2 sons, and Rimes to dancer Dean Sherrimet. Their on-screen chemistry quickly translated to real life, resulting in one of the most public and contentious affairs of the modern celebrity era. What distinguished this affair from many others was how it played out in real time through tabloids and early social media. The relationship became public in the most dramatic way possible when Us Weekly published photos of Cibrian and Rimes kissing at a restaurant. Glanville learned about her husband's infidelity not through a private confession, but through the media alongside the rest of the world. The aftermath became a tabloid war, with Glanville emerging as a reality TV star on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, where she frequently discussed the affair and its impact on her life. Rimes, once a beloved country music prodigy, saw her public image transform almost overnight as she was cast as the homewrecker. Both Cibrian and Rimes divorced their spouses and married each other in 2011, maintaining that their love justified the painful circumstances of its beginning. What's particularly interesting about this affair is how it played out in the early days of Twitter and reality television, creating a new template for celebrity scandal in the digital age. Rather than being managed through publicists and carefully worded statements, the emotions and accusations flowed directly through social media and reality TV confessionals, with all 3 primary figures, Cibrian, Rimes, and Glanville, telling their versions of events on various platforms. After years of public hostility, the parties eventually reached a tentative peace for the sake of Cibrian's children. The affair and its messy aftermath serve as a case study in how modern celebrity scandals unfold across multiple media simultaneously, with public opinion forming and reforming based on who controls the narrative at any given moment. 10. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Before Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman became one of Hollywood's power couples in the 1990s, their relationship began under complicated circumstances on the set of the racing film Days of Thunder in 1990. When they met, Cruise was still married to his first wife, actress Mimi Rogers, though they had reportedly already begun divorce proceedings. The timing of Cruise's divorce from Rogers and his rapid involvement with Kidman raised eyebrows in Hollywood. Cruise and Rogers officially separated in January 1990, with their divorce finalized in February. By December of that same year, Cruise and Kidman were married, creating the impression of a relationship that had begun before Cruise's first marriage had fully ended. What makes this affair particularly interesting is how it was handled by Hollywood's publicity machine. Rather than becoming a scandal, the relationship was carefully presented as a romance that blossomed only after Cruise's first marriage had effectively ended. This narrative was largely accepted by the public, and the new couple quickly established themselves as Hollywood royalty, adopting 2 children and starring in several films together, including Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. The Cruise-Kidman relationship lasted for a decade before ending in a surprising 2001 separation that reportedly blindsided Kidman. The circumstances of their affair, beginning on a film set while Cruise was technically still married, were largely forgotten as their power couple status took center stage in the narrative of their relationship. 11. Ryan Phillip and Abbie Cornish. Ryan Philippe and Reese Witherspoon were once considered one of Hollywood's golden couples, having met at Witherspoon's 21st birthday party in 1997 and married in 1999. With 2 children and successful parallel careers, they appeared to have defied the odds of young Hollywood marriages. That image was shattered in 2006 when Philippe began working with Australian actress Abbie Cornish on the drama Stop Loss. Rumors of an on-set affair between Philippe and Cornish began circulating during production, coinciding with increasing tensions in the Philippe-Witherspoon marriage. In October 2006, the couple announced their separation, with their divorce finalized the following year. Though neither publicly confirmed the affair as the cause of their split at the time, the timeline and subsequent events seemed to tell the story. What made this affair particularly surprising was how it contradicted the public image of Philippe and Witherspoon's seemingly solid marriage. In a 2007 interview with W Magazine, Witherspoon called the divorce very humiliating and very isolating, suggesting the circumstances were painful rather than mutual. Meanwhile, Philippe and Cornish went public with their relationship after his divorce, dating until 2010. The aftermath demonstrated the different ways men and women in Hollywood often experience the fallout from infidelity scandals. Witherspoon's career continued to flourish, with an Oscar win for Walk the Line and successful ventures into production and business. Philippe, meanwhile, saw his leading man status gradually decline, while Cornish, despite her considerable talent, found herself somewhat defined by the relationship in the American press. 12. Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz. Not all co-star affairs lead to public scandal and recrimination. When Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz worked together on the psychological thriller Dream House in 2010, both were in long-term relationships with other people. Craig with producer Satsuki Mitchell, his partner of 7 years, and Weisz with director Darren Aronofsky, her partner of 9 years, and father of her son. What happened next surprised Hollywood not because they fell for each other, on-set romances are common enough, but because of how they handled it. Rather than engaging in a public affair that played out in tabloids, Craig and Weisz ended their respective relationships and kept their new romance almost entirely private. They married in a secret ceremony in New York in June 2011, with only 4 guests present, including their children from previous relationships. The Craig-Weisz relationship stands out for its remarkable privacy in an era of constant exposure. Both actors, already known for guarding their personal lives, doubled down on this approach as a couple. As Weisz told More magazine, "He's just too famous. It would be a betrayal. You have to protect your marriage. When you're young, you tell your girlfriends everything. One of the great pleasures of not being an adolescent is that you don't have to share everything." Their approach, ending their previous relationships cleanly before publicly acknowledging their new one and maintaining strict privacy thereafter, represents a different model of handling co-star attraction. While the circumstances of their meeting weren't without complications, their commitment to discretion and respect for all involved parties helped them avoid the public drama that often accompanies Hollywood affairs. Now married for over a decade with a daughter together, Craig and Weisz demonstrate that co-star relationships that begin under complicated circumstances don't necessarily have to become tabloid fodder or career-defining scandals if handled with maturity and privacy. Their approach stands in marked contrast to many other entries on this list, where affairs became public spectacles that overwhelmed the actual work that brought the couples together in the first place. 13. Claire Danes and Billy Crudup. In 2003, Billy Crudup was in a relationship with actress Mary Louise Parker, who was 7 months pregnant with their child, when he began filming Stage Beauty with a young Claire Danes. What developed between the co-stars led to one of Hollywood's most controversial affairs, as Crudup left his pregnant partner for Danes, who was 24 at the time and 11 years his junior. The timing of Crudup's departure from Parker, just weeks before she gave birth to their son, generated significant public backlash, particularly against Crudup. Parker later channeled her experience into her memoir, Dear Mr. You, which included a raw, emotional letter to a cab driver who witnessed her breakdown after the breakup, though she never directly named Crudup in the book. Danes, who had previously been known for thoughtful roles and her Yale education, found herself cast as a home wrecker in the court of public opinion. Years later, she reflected on the situation in an interview with Howard Stern, saying, "I was just in love with him and needed to explore that, and I was 24. I didn't quite know what those consequences would be." She also noted that the public condemnation was really hard, but felt it wasn't her business what people thought of her. The relationship between Danes and Crudup lasted about 3 years before ending in 2006. What makes their affair particularly noteworthy is how it permanently altered public perception of both actors, especially Danes, who had previously maintained a relatively wholesome image. The circumstances, particularly Parker's advanced pregnancy, struck many observers as especially hurtful, creating a narrative about the couple that took years to fade. This affair serves as a reminder of how the specific circumstances surrounding a relationship can significantly impact public reaction, regardless of the genuine feelings involved. While many co-star affairs generate temporary gossip, those that involve particularly vulnerable third parties, like Parker in her third trimester, often create lasting impressions that can follow actors throughout their careers. 14. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Unlike many entries on this list, the affair between Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward that began during filming of The Long Hot Summer in 1957 led to one of Hollywood's most successful and admired marriages. However, the beginning was not without complication. Newman was married to Jackie Witt, with whom he had 3 children, when he fell in love with Woodward. Newman and Woodward had actually met years earlier in 1953, while Newman was still making his Broadway debut. They reconnected on the set of The Long Hot Summer, where their on-screen chemistry reflected growing off-screen feelings. Newman separated from Witte and divorced her in 1958, marrying Woodward almost immediately afterward in Las Vegas. What makes their affair surprising isn't just that it happened, but that it resulted in a marriage that lasted 50 years until Newman's death in 2008, an almost unprecedented accomplishment in Hollywood. Despite its complicated beginnings, the Newman-Woodward relationship became the gold standard for show business marriages, with Newman famously responding to a question about temptation by saying, "Why go out for hamburger when you have steak at home?" The longevity and apparent happiness of their marriage gradually transformed public perception of how it began. What might have been seen as a scandalous affair became, over time, the beginning of a love story so genuine and lasting that it overshadowed the painful circumstances of its origin. Newman's first wife and children, however, have occasionally offered different perspectives, with his daughter Susan noting that there has been a lot of revisionism going on over the years regarding the affair and how it affected their family. 15. Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott. In 2005, Tori Spelling, best known for her role on Beverly Hills 90210 and as the daughter of producer Aaron Spelling, was cast alongside Canadian actor Dean McDermott in the Lifetime TV movie Mind Over Murder. The on-screen chemistry quickly developed into an off-screen relationship, despite both being married to other people at the time, Spelling to actor Charlie Shanayan and McDermott to Mary Jo Eustace, with whom he had a son. The night they met, according to Spelling's later accounts, they began an affair that would end both their marriages. Shanayan filed for divorce just 15 months after marrying Spelling, while McDermott left Eustace, who was in the process of adopting a daughter with him. Spelling and McDermott married in May 2006, less than a month after her divorce was finalized. What distinguishes this affair from many others is how Spelling and McDermott themselves later commodified it through reality television, beginning with Tori and Dean in Love in 2007 and continuing through several subsequent shows. They turned their relationship, including the controversial circumstances of its beginning, into entertainment content. This approach represented a new model for managing the fallout from a scandalous affair. Rather than hiding from it, they incorporated it into their brand. The couple's willingness to address their beginnings openly, particularly in Spelling's 2008 memoir Storytelling, created a more complex public narrative than the typical homewrecker story. Spelling wrote candidly about her guilt, describing herself and McDermott as both married to other people when we fell in love. It was wrong, but it was also right. I never would have met Dean if something inside of me wasn't unhappy. Through 5 children and numerous publicized marital challenges, including McDermott's 2013 infidelity that they also documented on television, the couple has maintained their relationship. Their story illustrates how modern celebrities sometimes embrace and monetize their scandals rather than hiding from them, a very different approach than that taken by stars of earlier eras who relied on studio publicists to conceal their indiscretions. 16. Jason Aldean and Brittany Kerr. Country music star Jason Aldean was married to his high school sweetheart Jessica Ussery, with whom he had 2 daughters, when he was photographed kissing American Idol contestant Brittany Kerr at a bar in September 2012. Though not technically co-stars, they had met while performing at the same venue, a professional context that mirrors the film set scenarios where many celebrities meet future partners. What made this affair particularly surprising was how publicly it was exposed. TMZ published photos of the kiss, forcing Aldean to immediately address the situation. He issued an apology on Facebook, writing that he had had too much to drink and acted inappropriately, adding that he had left alone and was working to make it right with his family. Initially, it appeared the incident might have been a one-time indiscretion, as Aldean and Ussery attempted to work through the issue. They appeared together at the 2012 American Country Awards, and Aldean told CBS that they were fine and working through it. However, by April 2013, Aldean filed for divorce, and he began dating Kerr openly later that year. The country music community, often perceived as more traditionally minded than mainstream pop or Hollywood, had mixed reactions. While some fans supported Aldean, others criticized him for betraying family values often celebrated in country music lyrics. This tension between personal choices and public image has followed Aldean throughout his relationship with Kerr, whom he married in 2015 and with whom he has 2 children. 17. Johnny Cash and June Carter. The romance between Johnny Cash and June Carter is often celebrated as one of music's greatest love stories, immortalized in the film Walk the Line. What's sometimes glossed over is that their relationship began as an affair while Cash was still married to his first wife, Vivian Liberto, with whom he had 4 daughters. Cash and Carter met backstage at the Grand Ole Opry in 1956 when he was already a rising star, and she was performing as part of the Carter family. Though both were married to others, Carter to country singer Carl Smith, they developed an immediate connection. As they began touring together in the early 1960s, their professional relationship evolved into a personal one, complicated by Cash's growing struggles with drug addiction and alcohol. Liberto cited Cash's infidelity with Carter as one of the primary reasons for filing for divorce in 1966. Cash's daughter Roseanne later described the situation with remarkable grace, telling People magazine, "It seemed inevitable, though it was so painful for my mom. I had 2 really good examples from women in my life. My mom gave me this powerful sense of discipline, family, mothering, and detail orientation. And June gave me a sense of expansiveness and how to live life as a performer. What makes the Cash-Carter affair particularly noteworthy is how it has been romanticized in popular culture, with the pain caused to Liberto and Cash's daughters often minimized in favor of focusing on the enduring love story. Cash and Carter married in 1968 and remained together until her death in 2003, with Cash following 4 months later. Their 35-year marriage and musical partnership has largely overshadowed the difficult circumstances of its beginning. 18. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. The original Bennifer phenomenon began on the set of the infamous film Giggly in 2002. While the movie would later become one of Hollywood's most notorious flops, it succeeded in bringing together Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, despite Lopez being married to her second husband, dancer Chris Judd, at the time. The timeline suggests a significant overlap. Lopez filed for divorce from Judd in July 2002 after less than a year of marriage, but had already already been seen publicly with Affleck before that. The divorce was finalized in January 2003, by which point Lopez and Affleck were already engaged, with Affleck having proposed with a now legendary 6.1-carat pink diamond ring. What made their affair particularly surprising was how quickly and publicly it developed into a media sensation. Rather than attempting to keep their relationship private during Lopez's divorce proceedings, the couple embraced the spotlight, appearing together in Lopez's Jenny from the Block music video and giving joint interviews. Their high-profile engagement and subsequent canceled wedding in September 2003, they officially split in January 2004, became one of the most covered celebrity stories of the early 2000s. In an unusual twist, their story has recently added a surprising new chapter. After 17 years apart, during which both married others, had children, and divorced, Lopez and Affleck reconnected in 2021 and married in 2022. This development has created a unique narrative around their original affair, suggesting a connection so genuine that it eventually brought them back together despite the passage of time and their complicated history. Their reunion has prompted a re-evaluation of their original relationship, with many now viewing their initial connection as substantial rather than merely a publicity-driven Hollywood romance. This perspective softens the circumstances of how they first got together, suggesting that sometimes controversial beginnings can reflect authentic feelings rather than mere impulse or opportunity. 19. Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner. Frank Sinatra was at a career low point in 1949 when he began pursuing actress Ava Gardner. His voice was failing, his records weren't selling, and his acting career was struggling. The one thing he did have was a carefully crafted public image as a family man, married to his teenage sweetheart Nancy Barbato, with whom he had 3 children. That image was shattered when Sinatra's affair with Gardner became public. The timing was particularly bad. His youngest child, Tina, was just a year old when the affair began. The situation became a media circus, with Sinatra vilified in the press and by fan clubs that had once adored him. His relationship with Gardner was portrayed as not just an affair, but an abandonment of the wholesome family values he had supposedly represented. What makes this affair particularly significant is how dramatically it transformed Sinatra's public image and temporarily derailed his career. Columbia Records dropped him, his agent deserted him, and his film contract with MGM was canceled. While Gardner's career continued relatively unaffected, suggesting the double standard often applied to men and women in such situations, Sinatra found himself in professional free fall. Sinatra divorced Nancy in 1951 and married Gardner just days later, but their relationship proved volatile and short-lived. They separated in 1953 and divorced in 1957, with their intense passion proving insufficient for a stable marriage. Ironically, it was during this tumultuous period that Sinatra won the role of Maggio in From Here to Eternity, a performance that would win him an Oscar and revitalize his career. 20. Hugh Grant and Divine Brown. Not all Hollywood scandals involve co-stars. Sometimes the most surprising indiscretions occur far from film sets. Such was the case with Hugh Grant, who was arguably the world's biggest romantic comedy star and in a long-term relationship with model and actress Elizabeth Hurley when he was arrested on June 27, 1995, for receiving oral sex from sex worker Divine Brown in his car on Sunset Boulevard. The timing made the incident particularly shocking. Grant was at the peak of his fame following the international success of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and was in the midst of promoting his new film 9 Months. Rather than hiding from the scandal, Grant took the unusual step of appearing on scheduled talk shows, including The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, where Leno famously asked him, "What the hell were you thinking?" Grant's straightforward response, "I did a bad thing and there you have it," along with his refusal to make excuses or blame others, helped transform what could have been a career-ending scandal into a humanizing moment. His willingness to face public humiliation with self-deprecating humor and apparent remorse won him sympathy from many quarters. Perhaps most surprisingly, Hurley stood by him through the scandal, though their relationship eventually ended in 2000 after 13 years together. Grant's career recovered completely, with the actor continuing to star in successful romantic comedies for years afterward. Brown, meanwhile, used her sudden fame to launch a brief career in adult entertainment before eventually retiring to focus on family life. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Hollywood's most surprising co-star affairs, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into entertainment history. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these stories surprised you the most? Are there other famous co-star couples whose origins you've wondered about? Your engagement helps us create more of the content you want to see. Until next time, remember that behind every sensational headline lies a human story far more nuanced than any tabloid could capture. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.